Hi, this is Betsy Beers. I'm the executive producer of Grey's Anatomy, Scandal, How to Get Away with Murder, and The Catch. And this is Shondaland Revealed, the official Shondaland podcast of the night that we call TGIT, which involves Thursday. And I'm really excited to be back with one of the coolest people I've ever met, actually. He's super, super cool. He's really talented. He's actually very, very well groomed today as well, which is always incredibly important.
And unusual.
And I wouldn't say unusual. And he's a hyphenate, you guys. Not only does he act on the fine show Grey's Anatomy, but he directs on the fine show of Grey's Anatomy, and also sometimes can be found singing and playing instruments on the show Grey's Anatomy. I said Grey's Anemone, which I think is an interesting spin-off, Grey's Anemone.
Yeah.
It's the underwater version. That would be Kevin McKidd, who plays Owen Hunt.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Kevin.
Nice to see you.
Okay, Kevin is doing a Johnny Cash today. He's a man all dressed in black.
I am all in black. I didn't even plan that.
You didn't, but you're totally coordinated.
Is it working?
It's super working.
Okay,
you look
good.
super cool. You've got on a black t-shirt and some black jeans and some black shoes.
I have a brown jacket.
And he's got a brown jacket to set the whole thing up. This really cool brown leather, sort of longer bomber jacket, I would say. And even the face of your watch is black.
It's true. You're right. It's
With white dials. And we are here to talk about, I got to say, like one of my favorite episodes so far in the history of Grey's Anatomy, I think.
Really?
I
I'm
love
very
this
flattered.
episode. And I thought you did such an amazing job with this, which, of course, is the hideous child custody proceedings for Cali in Arizona. This was such an interesting episode because, in a weird way, we were just talking about this, it's like a standalone in a strange way. It's like its own little, you said movie.
Yeah, so in my head, I saw it as like movies like Kramer versus Kramer, and that I was like, this is kind of our version of that. It's definitely as intense as that, and it really did feel like it's kind of its own little movie. This episode, it's very apart. Most of the episode is in a courtroom or around the courtroom. So.
Yeah, and even the major plot which goes on in the hospital is affected by the courtroom because, of course, it's Arizona not being able to get back and take care of her patient, and whether or not poor Alex Karev should pick up a phone or not. It turns out it was a good idea that he picked up the phone.
Yeah, Dr. Russo, I think. Yeah, Dr. Russo.
Who made some questionable choices.
He's not a bad doctor, but
he's
just
not,
old
but he's not one of our
too
doctors.
old school. No.
And our doctors are the best doctors.
We are. I know.
You guys are amazing doctors.
We break the box every week.
You do. You absolutely do. Do you ever find in your real life that people actually believe that you can do this stuff? Do they ask you medical advice?
People ask if I know anything medically, if I've actually gleaned anything so far. I'm like, I think I can take somebody's pulse. And I think I could probably tell if somebody looked kind of sick, but that's kind of it. It's sad to say. I mean, poor Linda Klein, she will be like, Kevin, really? How many times have I shown you how to put a rubber glove on? And I'm like, I should really be getting this now, Linda.
But you're really good at fake surgery.
Yeah.
You always look like you know exactly what you're doing. Your fake surgery is impeccable. I do sort of feel like it is one of these things that we've talked about here before, but I think it is really weird that, I don't know, I feel like I'm an excellent fake doctor, and so I'm always giving people advice, which is not correct.
Right.
Ever. But I do it really with an authoritarian way, which sort of indicates that because we work in a medical show and we deal with medical stuff all the time, I'm always just sort of like, yeah, I know. But I don't know anything.
I don't know anything. I suppose the defining question is if either one of us was on a plane mid-flight and somebody took ill and they said, is there a doctor on the plane? And nobody put up the hand, would we be the ones to go, out of my way, everybody, just let me step in there, or not?
I'm a doctor on TV. I play a doctor on TV. I could do this. I can super handle this.
Right.
I can super handle this. Yeah. Well, I, for one, was really relieved when Arizona showed up and saved that baby. And things really went in Arizona's direction in this episode.
It's such an interesting episode, this. I mean, in a way, it's, because it really talks about themes, this episode, about, working mums, working parents. What is fair? Should a working parent be penalized? It raises really kind of significant questions about custody and about the family law system in this country. I just thought it was an amazing sequence where you see Arizona when she's giving her testimony and her phone starts to ring and it's ringing off the hook and she has to answer it even though she's right there and giving her under oath. And I thought she acted this brilliantly.
Yeah.
And I really helped guide her, I think, hopefully. That there's this moment where she kind of gives up her child to the universe, strangely, and you see her go through all the heartbreak and all the emotions, right? In 3 or 4 seconds on film, you see her go through all this grieving process of that because she knows that she has to answer the calling that she has to this patient and to this, baby back at the hospital.
Yep.
And she basically gives up her child to the fate, or to Callie, or to whatever it's going to be. She gives over the power of trying to control the situation to something higher, I think.
Yeah.
And ironically, that's why usually, in a karmic way or whatever, I'm getting interfered a bit, that things come back to you strangely. If you fully let something go, things actually, and I think that's one of the beautiful things about this episode.
I agree. I also felt like, just as somebody watching it who knows a little bit about the system but doesn't know a ton about the system and certainly has never gone through the system, I think the thing which is appalling is how innocent personal details then get turned around into something negative, and on both sides very effectively, because as we all know, you got to win. So you do whatever you can to win. And as you said, I think the fact that the thing which is really on trial here is your lifestyle choice, and if you work, does that make you a bad mother? Callie's leaving town to be the woman she cares about. Is that making a better home? Is she leaving also for work? But for Arizona, she has gone to more emergency surgeries. Does that make her a bad mother? Does it make it a bad mother for Meredith, who makes this incredibly eloquent point about how it always takes a village, but then when you take the village away, can you replace? All of those points were just, and the fact that you're deemed a slut because you go out with your boss and hang out, and which is only perspective and point of view, but all of those things are really incredibly troubling and have to do with different points of view. And then you go back to the hospital and you have a senior, OBGYN, ped specialist whose approach is absolutely and totally different than something that we're used to. So it's a really, I don't know, it's just a super compelling episode. And I don't rarely see anything quite like that on TV, I think, right?
I'm really pleased. I'm really proud of it. And I think you're right. I mean, it's so interesting that it brought up so many kind of discussions while we shot the episode. All of us were really engaged in talking about why is the system built to be so adversarial, to create these two sides? Because the hurt that can be inflicted, in an open court by these very skilled lawyers whose job is to
win for their
dig
client.
the dirt and throw mud
right.
and to question, put on trial the person's, and these two people loved each other. Callie and Arizona were in love.
Well,
and now they're instructing these lawyers to, sort of pull them down, and it's so...
I think weirdly, two of the things which were most impactful when you first start this episode is the Previously On, because the Previously On tracks the history of their relationship, and it's kind of devastating. You sort of start the episode that way, and then it's Meredith's voiceover about the biblical story of a kid being torn in half, potentially, and that you could tell the parent that really loved it because they wouldn't let that happen. That whole sequence in the very beginning that you shot is beautiful and super poetic, but incredibly, it's just perfect, because it's sort of all about point of view, because you have all those shots of like the shoe and the anxiety and the side of the head, and it's all, what are you seeing, what aren't you seeing, which I thought was such an interesting way of entering into this episode, because it was such an emotional, sort of contemplative, sideways, very anxious way of getting into this world.
Right.
How did you approach this episode differently than you have the other things that you've directed?
Yeah, I mean, that opening sequence really, it's funny because the title card, when the title card comes up?
Yes.
That isn't the place where the title card usually comes up. But for some reason, I was completely just, as soon as my first read of the script, I was like, and that's where the title card should be. Where you get the two faces when the lawyers say, we're going to see you in court. And then you see Arizona and Callie they're sitting. In my head, they had to be sitting, and the two lawyers stand up. And it's like, oh my God, our two people we love are losing power, are giving their power to these two lawyers who are going to create this havoc, really. And I just thought, in my head, I just had this image of very close eye shots of Callie and Arizona looking at each other, and then through that, this title card comes, which is not, we usually do it at the end of the act.
We always do it at the end of the act.
But it just felt like the right place. And so there was lots of things that really just flowed out of me in this episode. Maybe it's because I have kids, I don't know. But I felt very connected to this episode. And very sort of in tune with it. And, I kind of just followed it. It kind of dictated to me in a way. But again, I'm starting to sound really, but it really felt like the writing, which was so beautiful, and Tia did a great job, really dictated to me where I thought I could bring it and kind of raise it up to this kind of next level, You
really did, because there's so many moments in that where I feel like you really get so into the head of the characters. I thought everybody in the courtroom was really, really good. Both the attorneys for each of them were incredibly good. The judge was really great. It's just the whole environment. There's also that speech that the judge, who I think is Anna Marie Johnson, says in the very beginning, which is, "Are you sure you want to do this?" Which, it's like you've already been through the prologue before the title card, and they're both ready and spoiling for a fight, and you just know that there's no good outcome here.
No, I know. There's no winners. There's only degrees of loss.
Oh, exactly.
You know?
Now, do you remember at the table read what the reaction was when they found out who won?
Yeah, people were. I remember there was gasps.
I was there,
was
and
gasps.
I do sort of remember that. I think a lot of people who hadn't read the script couldn't believe that we made a choice. You know, I think that you're sort of waiting for the end that something will resolve itself, but then the choice gets made, and there was. I remember not consternation as much as a fair amount of shock.
Yeah, people were gasping. And I think what I love about it too, just exactly that, the fact that there was a choice and that we didn't do that thing where we could go, here's a cliffhanger.
Exactly.
You know, for next, who's going to get the blah, blah, blah. And I thought it was brilliant. It made the episode feel even more complete to give it that, you know, to give it that, this is the choice. And it's funny because when I read it the first time and I heard Arizona's testimony when she walks out of the courtroom, and I shot so many different angles of her walking out of that courtroom. And everybody kept saying to me, why are you shooting her exit so much? And I was like, I just feel like this is a huge moment. It's maybe the biggest moment in the episode, the moment where she decides to walk out and basically be kind of in contempt of court and walk away from her child and walk back to save this little baby.
And that lawyer
it's
going...
a huge moment.
I know.
So I was like, I'm shooting this from 3-4 different angles because I need that to really land how impactful that decision is. And I just thought it played great. So it's funny, when I first read it, there's something in my head just went, the fact that Arizona did that, walked out at that point, I wasn't surprised. Most people were, but I was like, that is a kind of, as I say, it's like her letting her go. And I thought,
and taking her power back. Because the thing is, what happens in those situations is you give all your power away to this situation which is larger than you are, and she takes her power back by saying, you know what, I'm not going to pay. I'm just not going to play this, which is just incredibly moving to watch.
And I love that scene at the end. I mean, there's two scenes at the very end of the episode where Callie, you know, you see Meredith walk down the hallway with her daughter and we're on their backs, and then you don't know who's there to collect her, and then you see it's Jessica, and that's when it's revealed. And then Sarah's performance when she breaks down is amazing. And then that last scene, you know, out in the street, which again is only 2 sentences spoken by the 2 actors, by Jessica and the child just says, can we go home? And she says, yeah, we can. But I shot it from so many angles, and everyone was like, why are you making such a big deal of this? And I was like, please, just, I have this gut feeling. To me, that shot when it goes up into the trees and it kind of is kind of a big movie ending when they walk down the street and finally they're in the light. I wanted it to be really light and sunny and nice finally, after being in this dark, oppressive, mahogany clad room for, you know what I mean, where decisions are being, I don't know, there was something about that I thought was...
No, and what's nice is you also spend a lot of time low.
Yeah.
And it's like you went up.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of, when she's dropping her off to Meredith's house in the morning and with Omelia, it's all sort of very low and very like
sinks a lot.
Dark, and everything, your camera sinks a lot. You're always like going down to a level, but the moving up was like incredibly freeing and nice, and just this really, really cool contrast. See, you guys think it's easy to direct a television show, but it really isn't.
There's
and
a lot more thought put into it than you think.
Goes into it. And the best shows look like they happened really naturally, but it still takes a lot of thought, and in Kevin's case, clearly a lot of instinct. Now, one of the best things about this episode, probably as a director, was you weren't in it very much.
No, I was in. I did my testimony. That's kind of it.
You did your testimony. You really, there's just a little bit, but you were really heavy last episode.
Yeah, that's right.
Because you and Omelia sort of sorted some crapola out.
We did. Those two, man, they're fast tracking their thing.
They're just racing through the speedy line.
I know. Well, they have been shilly-shallying a little bit.
They've been shilly-shallying. That's a good way of putting it.
They've been a little back and forth.
They haven't. There's been a fair amount of back and forth. I'd say for about a season now. Yeah. So technically,
I think it's like they've
earned the right to drive forward. With a little more zest.
And I'm excited about it. Those scenes were so fun to shoot.
You guys are really funny together anyway.
Your
energy's really good together.
I think it's great. Because like when she's there at the trailer and she's doing her crazy Omelia thing, and then Owen's just kind of like leaning against the truck, kind of waiting for her to stop talking so he can kiss her. I
know. Totally. It's just shut the hell up. Just shut the hell up. I also just think it's really funny that, Omelia, who's definitely had a track record of ups and downs in her career, and I'm including private practice in that for all of you folks who remember it. But like Owen used to have PTSD.
Totally.
So the truth is, like, slippery slope, dude. Like, you actually want to see a real trauma? Super awesome. It's really nice because I think both really understand trauma and pain and loss.
Yeah, they do.
Which is great, but also both sometimes can go sort of dark in a hole.
Yeah, I love working with Katerina. She's such a blast. She's so smart.
So lovely.
She's so smart. She puts so much thought into it, and we just get on like a house on fire.
Yeah, you guys are so much fun to watch.
I feel so lucky because I struck lightning twice. I mean, I got to have Sandra for 5-6 years, and now I'm with this amazing person too, so I feel very blessed.
Now, I know this is not going to surprise you, but we have like a butt ton of fan questions for you.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, yes. Lots of people want to know many things.
Okay. Cool.
Which is not surprising because I want to know many things, which is why this position is really,
I did see them come in on the Twitter feed over the last 24 hours. I was like, wow, there's a lot.
Okay, so Nikki at Nikki Iconic wants to know, in what ways do you feel like you do relate to Owen? In what ways do you not?
Hi, Nikki. Good question. I feel like I relate to him. I'm similar to him in that I like to think that I have a conscience, in the sense that like he's always feels responsible and he has to sort of, especially when he was chief. I mean, he was chief for like 4 years. He took that stuff, the weight of the world on his shoulders, and I'm a little bit like that. And the ways I'm not like him is that he doesn't use his words sometimes. I like to use my words and express how I'm feeling, and if things are an issue, then I'll try and, sometimes I don't do it, but
You're very direct about things.
I try to be. But he's kind of much more, he won't talk and just go and act out somewhere for 3 episodes before finally they go, just tell us what the issue is, Owen. And he'll go and finally say it.
It's a little bit of the relationship with Nathan this season, which is a little bit like,
That's been so fun to play all that.
By the way, you guys are the best together. I just always wait for you guys because there's lots of
who's going to punch who?
Who's going to punch who? It's great. Yeah. I mean, like the best television
ever.
I
love that Linda Klein sent me a text after they aired the episode where we do that sort of ballet surgery together.
Yes.
And Linda Klein texted me after that and she said, that's the best surgery we've done on this show since we started, that surgery between Nathan and Owen.
And old Martin Henderson, who of course had a little bit of practice on Off the Map.
That's right, yeah.
So when we hired him again, I was like, get out the salad tossers because you're coming back, baby. Because he takes that stuff really seriously too. Yeah. He loves doing all that work. And sort of connected to that is, do you think, this is Downey Perry, do you think you and Owen would be buddies in real life?
I do think we would be. I think he likes his single malt scotch. I like my single malt scotch.
Who doesn't?
He likes trucks. I like trucks.
You have a lot in common.
I know.
That's a whole week of conversation right there.
That's it. That's all you need.
I also think it's funny that 12 by 14 Anna at Scrubcaps wants to know, were you surprised that Owen had a sister? And I'd say, yes, you probably were.
I was a little surprised.
You're a little surprised. Because we met Owen's mom.
Met Owen's mom.
But I don't think we ever mentioned the sister.
No, but I think it's great. I think it gives him a whole other darker layer. Which is great. It's always great to unearth new stuff about your character.
I always love what family does. Like popping up dead family, live family, vague family. It all just gives you this whole background, which is super, super fun. Poulette at Marvelous Swift wants to know, this is an Omelia question, which I find, you just get one letter?
I know, I only get one. The balance is not right.
I'm going to say.
Well, I suppose the E we share the E.
You do. I guess I would have said Omelia.
Omelia, yeah.
Or Owelia. I guess I'm bad at this.
Owelia.
Owelia.
I get my whole name in there.
You get your whole name.
That's better.
That's not bad. That's actually not bad. Now the season's ended. What's your favorite Omelia scene?
There's so many that I enjoyed playing. But I think that scene, I thought, out on the porch of Meredith's house, it was when he just came back from war. Remember, he'd gone back and she had the bag of Oxy and they both gave these amazing speeches and were just so raw with each other. Because it was like a 7-page long scene and I just thought Owen really showed up in a really... And I think that scene was the scene where I knew, and I think a lot of people knew, this is not just a flirtation. This is not just there's something really deep running between these two people. So I loved that scene. Yeah.
Shepwards at Team Shepwards wants to know, if Owen and Amelia had a theme song, what would it be?
I don't know why the theme tune from MASH came into my mind.
That's good. So weird. I like that. Suicide is dangerous.
Suicide is painless.
Painless. That's it.
It's a little morbid, but
that's morbid, but I like it. That's good. I think we'll go with that one. It's better than "Hit Me with Your Best Shot," which might actually apply much more into this episode of television.
Or Boogie Wonderland or something like that.
I think exactly. Camilla L News at Camilla News wants to know, will you and Camilla ever use your real accents again?
We will for you. We will. Next season we will do a scene.
He is right now. I remember back thinking about this because we really were tempted to have you use your original accent. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
That when we first started talking to you about coming to play this part, because we'd met you for a while before we cast you as Owen, I think. We'd met you in another kind of lifetime and really loved you. And we kept trying to figure out a way that we could justify making a U.S. military guy have your accent, because we loved your accent so much. And we kept thinking, no, I just don't think we can, unfortunately. This is, my chair's creaking, you guys. Can you hear that? It's super creepy. But it's like, we struggled with it and finally gave up and realized that you did a very good American accent. So
I gotta say, I'm glad, because I love doing it. I've always loved doing accents. And
you're really good at it too,
Thank you.
Instinctively really good at it.
I love it, and it just gives me something. Gives me a switch that I know I'm stepping into Owen. So there's no ambiguity or grey area. Because I think sometimes when you're on a show for a long time, your character and yourself can. I mean, there's definitely lots of me in Owen, obviously, but your character and yourself can sort of merge a little much sometimes, and so then your own neurosis can play out in the character, sometimes not in the best way. So I find having that accent really feels like a switch that I can turn and go, okay, now I'm being this person. And I think also directing's helped me be more objective about Owen's choices, because sometimes I get mad at Owen and I'm like, why is he doing that? Why is he doing this? Why is he not talking? Because I have this accent, it really helps me sort of go, no, he's a different person. He isn't you,
That's cool, actually. No, and it's funny with Martin, because when we brought Martin on, we really, really wanted him to do his accent, because we just super love his accent. Yeah, we're a sucker. I'm a sucker for a good accent. I got to tell you. And on that front, Kara at Sloan's Avery wants to know, do you enjoy working with Martin?
I do. Martin's great. He likes to surf. I like to surf. And we haven't actually been out surfing yet, but we talk about it.
I was going to ask you that. So you just talk about it.
We're going to go out this summer when we're both off. We've been talking about going out. He's a great sailor. You probably didn't know this about Martin.
Martin's a
he's
sailor.
Very passionate and very skilled sailor. I've always wanted to learn to sail, so he's promised that at some point he's going to teach me how to sail. We're going to go sail the seas.
That's going to be fun.
Martin's great.
Bina at Bina Surya wants to know, which is harder, to act and direct emotional scenes or complicated procedures?
Oh, I think the emotional scenes. Because, the complicated procedures is like rubbing your head or tapping your stomach and rubbing your head.
So it's like about coordination more than anything. And
that's tricky and challenging, but I think to have to repeat, especially if it's quite deep emotions, that's definitely harder, I think.
And Bina also just wants to know which Gray's character would make the best U.S. president, and why.
My default answer is usually Bailey to everything like that. But I think actually Owen...
Most of us just answer Bailey to a lot of things, actually.
Richard, come on. Actually, Richard Webber.
Richard Webber would be a great president. Sense of humor, stately, knows his crap.
Wise. I think he'd be great.
He'd be a great president. Lynn's at Peace Love Graves wants to know, how did you get into directing?
I always wanted to do it, and I just kind of asked. I remember I asked Shonda, and I asked everybody, would I be allowed to shadow directors? And I shadowed Tony Phelan and Alison Liddy Brown. And then at that time we were doing, what do we call them, the webisodes. The second season of the webisodes. Just as I was finishing shadowing, they were looking for people to direct them, and they were like 5 minutes long.
Remember that? Yep.
And they gave me like a little budget and a little crew. Off I went and made these, I think, 6 episodes, 5-minute episodes, and I loved it. And Sean Hanley, who's now our first AD, was my first AD on that. So we've become very close. And then right as I was in post-production on the webisodes, a director, I think, fell out for some reason. And Rob came to me and said, you're up, get up there and do it. And I was like, really? And I was a little terrified, but very excited. That's how it happened. That's how it all went down.
It feels like such a long time ago, too, because it kind of was.
It was like 4 years ago,
it's like 5 years ago. Yeah. So Soy at Soyuri wants to know, having directed so many episodes of Grey's, what's the number one thing you've learned?
That's a really interesting question, actually. I've learned a lot about storytelling. It's actually informed my acting a lot, being a director, because I think, again, when you're playing a character, you're so your character's advocate that you can't see the wood from the trees sometimes. And if your character's doing bad things or irrational things or mean things, you sort of jump to the defense of your character and want to fight on their behalf and sort of advocate for them and say, no, my character would never do this. And then being a director has given me this much more the broad view of, no, we need the show and the story can only work. Somebody has to be the bad guy sometimes. There has to be that agitating element to make the world go around, And that was one of the biggest things I've learned.
I gotta say, one of the hardest things long time ago when I was an actor for like 10 minutes, the hardest thing for me was, I always understood you were supposed to be the largest advocate for your character, but the reason I knew that I could never really act was I could identify with every single character. I'd be like, I'm having a really hard time making this argument because they just made a really, really, really good argument. And the director would say, but you're your character. So no, I get my point of view, but they also have a really, really good point here. So, right. Which is not the best way to walk into a character in a part. Right. So I think it is more similar to directing, where you have to even-handedly know the pros and cons of everybody's position and then set them loose and make them go, which is just, it's kind of nice to take a break from the insulation of the point of view of your character sometimes. Completely.
To see the big picture. Right? The big picture of what is going on.
So Bobblehead Lives at Bobblehead Lives, who we love. Bobblehead's just the best. Wants to know, every day for 8 minutes, if you could go anywhere or be anything, what would you do? So every day you have 8 minutes.
So it has to be the same thing every day.
Let's say the same thing.
I would go surfing for 8 minutes.
Go surfing for 8 minutes. Okay.
That's pretty good. But big waves, like, overhead high.
Not just like surfing, like getting up on the board. No. You'd have to be like
big
midway
overhead
on the board,
waves,
getting onto the big...
getting barreled, as they call it.
So interestingly enough, you got a lot of questions about Scotland. So I'm going to end with one of them, which is Katiana Mary at Katiana19. What was it like growing up in Elgin, and how did it get you where you are today?
Elgin is like funny. It's a funny little town, and I love it now. But at the time, I couldn't wait to get away from it.
How big is Elgin?
It's about 50,000, maybe 40,000 people.
That's a bit wee.
And it's right up in the Highlands, way up there, away from any cosmopolitan city or anything. It's country. It's a country place. And it was that kind of classic Luke Skywalker thing in the opening of Star Wars. Like, he looks out to the sunset and goes, there's a whole rebellion and a universe going on out there, but it's as far away from the place I am as I could possibly be. And I remember I went to the local playhouse. I remember I'd already done a couple of little plays at school, and then I watched E.T. in the Elgin Playhouse. And that film, and the fact that I was feeling this yearning about something out there, and I couldn't quantify it or put a name to it. But that, something about, I was doing plays, I was a very shy kid, but doing the plays seemed to unleash me from that shyness. E.T. just kind of crystallized everything. I was like, that's what I want to do. And then I just kind of followed that path from the age of 9, I guess. So Elgin really would be, the reason I ended up here because of Elgin was because I was finding a way to get away from it. And now I love going back to it, and I miss it all the time. So
it worked out. Thank you so much, Kevin. This was so nice of you to do this. It wasn't painful at all.
I love doing this. Can I do it more?
You can do it whenever you want. You can come every week, because this is like the most relaxing time. Like, I just get to hang out and look at you and talk to you, which is the best. Next time on TGIT, that's Thursday, May 12th, we have another new Grey's Anatomy. You guys, there are only 2 episodes left of the show. There are only 2 episodes out of 24 shows, which, by the way, is a lot of shows, and we love doing them, and I love watching them, but we're just getting to the end, which is super cool, and it's getting really good, you guys. It's getting really, really good, and I'm just going to say, you're going to have a lot of Owen and Omelia this episode, and it's so good, and there's so many cool surprises. You're going to really love it. Yep. And that's at 8 o'clock on ABC, as you guys know. That's ABC. The season finale of Scandal is next week, y'all. It's called That's My Girl. It's super intense. As always with Scandal, there's some big freaking slamming surprises here in the season finale that's going to keep you hanging on till next season. That's 9 o'clock on ABC Thursday night. And The Catch. There are only 2 episodes left of The Catch, okay? So it's really getting down to the wire for these folks. It's going to be like a 2-hour finale coming up. But this week, it's called The Package. And I'm just going to say the package is not what you think it is. So keep that in mind. And that's at 10 o'clock on ABC. And of course, thanks again to EW.com for posting an exclusive first listen of the podcast every Thursday night. And you can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes.com/Shondaland, where each new podcast episode is available on Friday evenings. And I'm going to be back next week with another new Shondaland Revealed podcast. And it's getting near the end of the season, so just watch the shows and then listen, because then you can go back and rewatch the show. And that'll be good, because everybody's going to have a lot of time to do it soon, because it's going to be summer. It's going to be great. In the meantime, this is Betsy Beers. I'm signing off. Have a great week. Stay safe. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.